Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you're all doing well. Nvidia just officially launched a new generation of graphics cards, the GeForce RTX 3000 series, powered by their Ampere microarchitecture, and man oh man did they put on quite the show, as I feel like Nvidia practically pulled off another Pascal here. There's a lot of information to get through, so let's get right into it. In their live stream, Nvidia talked about a lot of important new features they will be introducing with the RTX 3000 series GPUs, and advancements they made with the Ampere architecture over Turing. We'll definitely go over some of that stuff, but I know the reason why you guys are here is because you want to know information about these new GPUs and hear my thoughts on them, so I won't waste your time and we'll do exactly that before. The first card that Nvidia unveiled was the RTX 3080, with 2nd gen RTX cores, 3rd generation Tensor cores, 10 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory, a bold claim of twice the performance of the RTX 2080, 30 shader teraflops, and it's only $699. Yup, it's the same price as the old RTX 2080, which is a huge relief because there were many rumors saying that Nvidia was going to price hike the 3000 series again and shift the cards up another tier. At $699, this price seems fair because the amount of performance you're getting here is definitely worth it. And yeah, I know Turing was price hiked quite a lot, and a lot of GPUs shifted a tier up, but this time, things are different, and I'll definitely expand on why that is a bit later on in the video. With the reveal of the RTX 3080, Nvidia boldly claimed it would be a generational leap, and no doubt saying stuff like 2x the 2080's performance is quite the feat. But this is one of the reasons as to why I'm getting the same kinds of vibes out of Turing or out of Ampere that I did from Pascal. Of course, they say that every year, but in regards to the numbers they are showing, you definitely shouldn't take their words lightly. Now, they didn't go into too much detail during their stream or do a deep dive on their architecture, but they actually did post full specs on the website there, and you guys can see that in regards to the CUDA cores, they are way higher than what was originally speculated. With the Ampere architecture, Nvidia have brought a doubling of the streaming multiprocessors, hence why you see the labeling of their new 30 teraflops of shader performance. If you divide 8704 by 2, you get 4352, which is what the original speculated amount was. However, nobody was really taking into account the doubling of the SMs, and if there were any rumors surrounding it, they were discredited and disregarded by a lot, myself included. Hence, I never really reported on it. But when it is doubled, that is actually over double the amount when compared to the 2080 Ti, and almost triple the amount when compared to the RTX 2080. How that actually translates into real-world gaming performance still kind of remains to be seen, but, that is absolutely insane, and I'm glad that they made these kinds of improvements with these GPUs because, a lot of people were fearing another repeat of Turing, where, they wouldn't really talk too much about, shaders and stuff like that. They would make a large emphasis on improved ray tracing performance and do a whole showcase like, oh, how RTX is the greatest thing ever, but don't really improve too much in regards to traditional rasterization performance. The jump in shader cores is the most important thing when it comes to direct gaming performance, so seeing that does bode well for traditional in-game performance. Moving on, the RTX 3080 is reported with a 1710 MHz boost and a 1440 MHz base, so no surprise here, these clocks are in the same range as what we have been used to with the RTX 20 series and GTX 10 series. And as I have stated in the past, here the improvements won't be coming from frequency, but the underlying changes Ampere brings us, changes to the die sizes and tweaks made to the cores. The manufacturing node they used was indeed Samsung's 8nm node. So I thought this was quite interesting because in my previous video I covered Gainward's documents and they mentioned 7nm. So there was a lot of flip-flopping information out there in regards to the process node. But, now we finally have our answer, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because Nvidia are claiming a whopping 1.9x performance per watt improvement over Turing, which is huge because that's even bigger than what they had claimed with Pascal. And we all know how big of a leap Pascal was, right? We'll definitely have to wait until independent benchmarks come out from various tech press outlets to validate their claims on that. Now finally, the 3080 is confirmed to be quite a power-hungry card. With a 320W TDP, you'll need at least a 750W power supply as it takes two PCI Express 8-pin power connectors. The 3080 will be available on the 17th of September. Now let's move on to the second graphics card, which they unveiled for the RTX 3000 series. The RTX 3070. Jensen actually acknowledges that the X70 class cards have always been the most popular in the lineup since they are often priced in the mid-range segment, which obviously sell a lot more than their high-end cards simply because they're cheaper and offer great value in regards to price to performance. This GPU has 20 shader teraflops, 40 ray tracing teraflops, and 163 tensor teraflops. The 3070 also has a CUDA core count of 5,888, 8GB of GDDR6 non-X with a 256-bit memory bus, and it starts at $499, so the same price point as the old 2070. With the 3070, Nvidia are claiming faster performance than a 2080 Ti, which is definitely another reason why I said this launch gave me the same kinds of vibes as Pascal, since the 1070 was branded as a card that was faster than the Titan X Maxwell, which was really on par with the 980 Ti, so this statement can be taken either way there. And this is definitely impressive. However, the specs of this model worry me a bit, as I feel like 8GB for even a mid-range card priced at $499 in 2020 just doesn't do it justice. They really should have given this card 10GB minimum in my opinion, just like how they did with the 3080. And it would have made sense because it would have followed that same memory setup as the last 3 generations, with Maxwell kind of being a bit of an outlier though. But the 1070 and 1080 both had 8GB of memory, and so did the 2080 and 2070. Now boost clock figures are about the same as the 3080, and it'll come with all the same feature sets. Although the 3070 here is quite a bit more power efficient at 220 watt TDP, so they recommend a 650 watt power supply for this unit, which, as I've mentioned before, these requirements are usually a tad bit exaggerated to take into account bad quality units some users might be using. But it's interesting to see this figure, as it basically tells me that when you scale up Samsung's 8nm node to these larger dies, efficiency gets thrown right out the window. Now, I don't have die size specifications here, so I can't make any exact claims or make any sort of exact quantitative observations, but you can be more than likely certain and bet that the GA104 chip will be considerably smaller than GA102, which is what the 3080 is based on. But we'll find out more once we see reviewers get their hands on these cards and do some thorough examinations. I just find it pretty intriguing, and it does seem like, for the top end SKUs, Nvidia did go for these really large dies and were willing to, take this note out of this the efficiency sweet spot curve. This card doesn't have a specified release date, although I'm hearing it will be sometime in October, so definitely stay tuned for that. Finally, last but definitely not least by any means, Nvidia unveiled the RTX 3090, an absolute monster of a graphics card with a hefty price tag. Now, before Jensen unveiled the RTX 3090, he talks briefly about the Titan graphics cards, which they started to release with every generation going a few years back. You had your Titan X, your Titan Black, Titan XP, and as you guys all know, the Titan class cards have always been targeted towards those in the prosumer segment. Those doing content creation like high-end video editing, 3D animation, 3D modeling, applications which require a lot of graphics horsepower, so ultimately you need the best card you can get. With that said, he unveils the RTX 3090, the largest Ampere GPU of the bunch, and this signifies that it's not a 2080 Ti replacement, but it's a Titan replacement. And when we take that into account, right, that's actually going to be quite an improvement in regards to looking at things from a financial standpoint. The RTX 3090 is packing 36 shader teraflops performance, 69 RT teraflops, 285 tensor teraflops, and a massive 24GB GDDR6X memory buffer with a 384 memory bit bus. 10,496 CUDA cores, just absolutely insane numbers here. But with insanity comes a great price, so the RTX 3090 will be priced at $1,499. Now, like I said, when comparing this to a Titan, and the previous generation Titan RTX, which I believe was going for like $2,500, that's actually quite a bit of a discount. Because this is, like I said, not supposed to be a 2080 Ti replacement, so don't think of this as a price hike from $999. This is actually a decrease from $2,500. The RTX 3090 has a 350 watt TDP, but its power supply and power connectors are the same configuration as the RTX 3080, which is actually very interesting because there was so much talk about this new 12-pin power connector, which would have been a requirement for these new GPUs, but perhaps Nvidia decided to either scrap it or it may not have been ready in time, and we might be seeing it with other models down the road. Who knows, it might be included with those Quadro cards, as I think the 12-pin power connector is a bit more sleeker, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Alright, now even though nobody really recommended a Titan class graphics card for gaming, Jensen did proceed to talk about how the RTX 3090 is the world's first graphics card that will allow for 8K 60fps gaming, which is definitely intriguing. I mean, there's barely any 8K monitors out there, and 8K TVs are just starting to hit the market, although prices are astronomical. However, if you want the ultimate gaming performance graphics card, the RTX 3090 will be the card to get. The 3090 will be available on the 24th of September. Now, all of these GPUs will be using the updated PCI Express 4.0 interface for increased bandwidth, which I feel like will be very important for features such as RTX IO, and more on that later. And I honestly feel like Intel really messed up hard by not making their Comet Lake platform PCI Express 4.0 ready, at the very least. Of course, I don't think you'll be sacrificing any performance with these GPUs if you decide to use them on a motherboard that only has PCI Express 3.0. The performance differences there should be negligible, for gaming that is. If you try to NVLink two 3090s and use them in, say, some workstation applications that will utilize the cores to the fullest, then you definitely should keep in mind that when looking at these cards and whether you want a platform that supports PCI Express 4.0, which right now you'll only find on AMD. Now, of the biggest additions for me, HDMI 2.1. With more and more 4K TVs coming with this port and 8K TVs, if you're rich enough for one, that is, yeah, you'll definitely want to utilize HDMI 2.1 to get the most out of your display if you're going to be gaming with this. As HDMI 2.1 allows for 48 gigabits per second throughput, this will allow for 4K 120Hz gaming or 8K 60Hz gaming. As of now, my 2080 Super is running my LG C9 OLED at 1440p 120Hz with a sharpening filter. While I could game at 4K 60Hz, the smoothness of a higher refresh rate goes a long way for me. So for the time being, I was willing to sacrifice a bit on visual quality and lower the resolution as a trade-off. But with an RTX 3080 with HDMI 2.1, now I won't have to make that kind of compromise. In terms of the cooler designs, as you guys have all probably have noticed, Nvidia is going to be going with the interesting dual fan design for the RTX 3080 and 3090 that was, leaked and talked about these past couple of months. For a dual actual flow-through operation, they claim this configuration provides them with 55% more airflow, it's 3 times more quieter, which is always welcome, and is 30% more efficient, and when it comes to efficiency, they need to be efficient in every way possible. This flow-through design allows for the fans to pull in cool air from outside and push them through the video card seamlessly, and then exhaust the hot air through the system chassis with your rear exhaust fans. If you have any, that is, you probably should have some. Again, this design still needs to be tested so we can actually know how it performs in a real-world scenario in regards to thermals, acoustics. But honestly, I like this cooler. I think it looks really nice, and those nice rounded edges look pretty cool. It looks robust, and I like how Nvidia is innovating for GPU cooling designs, rather than just making the heatsink as thick as possible and bulky, and then, adding 3 giant fans. Now, the minor differences between the 3080 and 3090 is that the cooler on the 3080 is a bit smaller, and, that makes sense since it doesn't have as high of a TDP. Now, the RTX 3070 doesn't use this special 2-fan design with a push-pull configuration, although the overall characteristics and aesthetics, such as the fins, backplates, and, rounded edges all follow that same design scheme. So in regards to GPU specs, information, and design, that is all the information we got today. And I must say there was quite a lot of information that did line up with those leaks and rumors which we saw over the past couple of months. However, we did also see quite a lot of new information and performance claims that I hadn't seen anyone really talk about. And remember, we did see some leaks on TimeSpy scores and such, and with the numbers that Nvidia claims, they're actually even higher than what was already assumed. So these cards definitely exceeded my expectations for the most part. I wish they had shown some more performance charts in regards to traditional rasterization performance, but I don't know, it could be due to a few various reasons. It did seem like the stream was a bit shorter than what they would usually put on, but I mean, with all the external factors, everything that's happening around the world, it could have been due to a few various reasons, I'm not going to say. Now, There was a lot more information that was talked about regarding the Ampere architecture and new features that are included with the RTX 3000 series. I won't be going over everything as there's just way too much to cover, and you can just check it out on Nvidia's website and read through it. But I'll be giving you guys my thoughts on the stuff that interested me the most. Starting with the former, we know that ray tracing is a huge part of Nvidia's graphics suite, but with Turing, performance of the RTX wasn't all that great, whereas as soon as you would turn on any of those graphical options, your performance would absolutely tank, making it pointless. With Ampere, they claim much better ray tracing performance, thanks to the 2x performance increase of the individual RT cores, where when you turn on ray tracing effects, you should retain most of the performance and be able to enjoy great features. Better DLSS performance due to powerful tensor cores, and this is also quite critical. With DLSS, which stands for Deep Learning Supersampling, you'll be able to render games at higher resolutions, but thanks to AI processing, this actually makes the games perform better than if you were natively playing at that higher resolution. Where DLSS takes the internal low-res image, upscales it in an intelligent manner, and therefore boosts performance, and at the same time giving you slightly better visual quality. I just hope that we see more games implement this going forward, as it is a really useful feature. And, this time around with Ampere's launch, they've actually got it right, because I remember when DLSS first came out, what DLSS 1.0, it was an absolute joke. A lot of people, ridiculed Nvidia for releasing this feature. It seemed rushed, and the overall image quality was quite a bit worse than if you were playing with the game with maybe even a slight sharpening filter. So with DLSS 2.0, they've definitely improved things in the right direction. Another really cool feature that they are introducing is RTX I/O. Nvidia actually worked directly with Microsoft to develop this feature, and theoretically it does sound very promising. RTX I/O allows for rapid GPU-based loading and game asset decompression, accelerating I/O performance by up to 100 times when compared to traditional hard drives. With RTX I/O, the GPU can leverage fast storage devices such as your NVMe SSD to stream textures, load worlds, all the while being lossless and improving performance. I had a feeling this would make its way to PC, as Microsoft and Sony both are using similar technology on their game consoles now that they've introduced SSDs. Mark Cerny actually talked about this in his unveiling of the PS5 in his conference, where when he talked to developers, the SSD was actually one of the most demanded things. And it was because with such fast storage loading mediums, you can theoretically do so much, but we actually never saw any of that kind of come to fruition. All we saw was just decreased load times, and a lot of the times you are bottlenecked by the game's engine. So with these new technologies in place, and game developers being more aware of it, we'll definitely see some cool stuff coming out of it. This idea of using SSDs in parallel with GPUs to manage loading workloads is fantastic, because now instead of just expecting fast load times from your SSD, it can be used for so much more. There was also the showcase of RTX Broadcast, which has features like auto green screen without having the need for an actual green screen, so you can set up cool backgrounds. RTX Voice, which is directly implemented into the suite, and RTX Voice is actually really cool because, as they showed in the demonstration, and I have actually tested this out before, you can have a blow dryer, an extremely obnoxious loud blow dryer running in the background, and as soon as you turn on RTX Voice, it's completely gone, and your voice still sounds very clear. Whereas with a lot of other compression software I've seen out there and tried out, sometimes while you'd be able to block out a lot of background and ambient noise, your voice quality would diminish as well. But with RTX Voice, I find that it retains 95% of your vocal quality, so I'm really, really happy about that. And there were some also neat features included with the RTX Broadcast software as well, which I'm sure streamers will appreciate. Now, like I said, there was a lot more information presented, and more information was posted on their site, so I'll leave some links down below so you guys can check them out. So in regards to the RTX 30 series launch, I was quite pleased with what I saw. Performance this time around does look to be improved overall, not just RTX, but traditional rasterization performance as well. There's been a lot of cool new features introduced with the RTX 30 series, and most importantly, prices don't appear to be sky high, and for the most part are fair. Now, I'll definitely be making some follow-up videos discussing some other topics and stuff I wanted to go a bit more in-depth in, which I just couldn't do in this video as it would be way too long, since I mainly wanted this video to be an overview of the announcement. But if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe to the channel so you'd never miss another one of my videos, and You can check out my future videos that will come out pertaining to the RTX 3000 series GPUs and a lot of the other features I'll be talking about. So, I hope you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining. Leave your comments and thoughts down below. I'll be interested in hearing what you guys think about the upcoming RTX 30 series graphics cards. Will you be buying one on launch? Will you be buying an RTX 3080? Will you be buying a 3090? Or will you wait for the 3070? Or, are you going to be waiting for AMD's Big Navi? I'll definitely be intrigued to hear what you guys say. Check out the video description if you guys want to, support the channel and if you're interested in my other content. And take care, guys. I'll see you in the next one.